If I can, please ask everybody to make their way and find the seats as soon as you are seated. Please, if you will, make your way in, find your seats. And again, as soon as you are seated, I believe we're ready to start.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Please take your seats. The program will begin very soon. Good morning. Please take your seats. We are beginning the program in 1 minute. Thank you.
All ready? Everybody feeling good? All right. Everybody has water, happy. Sun comes out strong. morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll give it just another few seconds for folks to finish taking their seats, but we're excited to be here, excited you're all with us. And if I got the all clear from the tech folks in the back, we'll go ahead and get going. All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 27th Annual Lake Tahoe Summit. I'm Senator Alex Padilla, honored to represent California, and honored to welcome you all for the second time as your host here at beautiful Kings Beach. Now, we've come a long way since the first time I had the honor of hosting this event. You'll recall the virtual and hybrid summits between COVID and other challenges, and so I have to say nothing beats being here together in person. But as we arrived here today, I was reminded of the words of the legendary Mark Twain, who 150 years ago wrote about Lake Tahoe as follows. He says, "It burst upon us, a noble sheet of water, of blue water, walled in by a rim of snow-clad mountain peaks. The air up there in the clouds is pure and fine. And why shouldn't it be? It's the same that the angels breathe." But a century and a half later, we remind ourselves that that air, that this water, that this land does not remain pure all by itself. It remains a natural jewel because of stewards like the late Senator Harry Reid, the reason we're all here today. And my colleague, Senator Dianne Feinstein, a conservation champion whose legacy we see through the clear blue water of Lake Tahoe, and who we'll be honoring later in the program. The stewards include our local, state, tribal, federal, and nonprofit organizations who protect this basin, including the Tahoe Fund, the Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit, the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. By the way, the Tahoe Basin Management Unit is celebrating 50 years of service this year. So let's give them a round of applause as well. The stewards include the bipartisan, bi-state group of leaders who prioritize the protection of Lake Tahoe year after year. And of course, the courageous leadership embodied by today's keynote speaker, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. And of course, the original stewards of this sacred land, the Washoe tribe. I had a chance to spend some time with the tribal chairman a couple of days ago, and I'm just honored to have him and the tribe as partners in our efforts to protect the basin. Each and every partner here today who sets the standard for environmental protection is worth celebrating. It's because of all of you, all of us, that we celebrate and recommit to the work. But we're not without our fair share of challenges here in Tahoe. Now, 2 years ago, many of us were reminiscing that we were gathered in the midst of the Caldor Fire, a fire that burned over 200,000 acres, devastating the biodiversity and sanctity of our land and leaving only embers as painful reminders of how quickly crisis can strike. This year, we gather after a winter of relentless atmospheric rivers, including storms that unleashed heavy snow and buried this community. But whether you helped your neighbors plow their driveways or were one of the thousands of residents ordered to evacuate in 2021, Tahoe knows personally, you all know personally, the extraordinary weather whiplash that can tear through the basin from one year to the next, all made worse by climate change. And as we were tragically reminded this past Sunday when we lost 3 firefighters battling a blaze in Southern California, every day we fail to conquer the climate crisis is another day our first responders are asked to risk their lives for our safety. So we all feel the urgency of this moment. As President Obama reminded us when he spoke here 7 years ago during the summit, quote, conservation and combating climate change are connected. And we know that our job here is both to recommit to our conservation efforts to combat the climate crisis so that we can protect Tahoe from fire, from drought, snowstorms, and rain, from the threat of polluted runoff or increased traffic that impacts air quality, or from careless treatment of the land, including trash littering our beaches. We learned just last month that despite improving water clarity, Lake Tahoe now has a higher concentration of microplastics than some garbage patches floating in the ocean. And often when faced with monumental challenges like this, it's easy to feel helpless. Or to think, well, we've been through this before and things always get better, so inevitably somebody's going to do something that'll make it better. That our water will somehow just remain blue. That our beaches will remain clean, and that our trails will continue to be pristine. The beauty of today's gathering is that everyone here knows that there is no someone else to address these issues. That without our action, the beauty of Tahoe is not guaranteed. It's these historic partnerships that will preserve Tahoe for the next generation. But it will take work. We have to step up to combat the climate crisis, and now that working with Senators Cortez Masto and Rosen and our other federal partners, we passed and the President signed the Inflation Reduction Act. Now we have to be thoughtful and intentional in how we implement those initiatives and those funds. We have to commit to preserving the trails, the beaches, and water so that more Californians and Nevadans have access to outdoor recreation. We've got to invest in our deteriorating roads and local public transit so that this pristine lake can be more accessible to all communities. And yes, we've got to extend the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act to preserve the basin for future generations. And as we know, we'll continue to remind ourselves this task is shared and our work is never done. To those who live here, to those just visiting, and to those who have cared for these lands for thousands of years, today is proof that we are all committed to protecting Tahoe. I'm proud to welcome you back. I'm looking forward to hearing from all the leaders who have gathered here today, and I know that whatever comes this fall, next winter, next spring, that next summer, we'll be back somewhere on the shore of this lake, ready to tackle the ongoing issues and to continue to preserve this sacred place. Now, to open our summit, I have the great honor of introducing a representative from the Washoe tribe. As I mentioned, they are the original custodians of Lake Tahoe. The Washoe people have shown us all what it means to prioritize the preservation of this sacred land. And today, as partners in our efforts, it's my honor to bring forward Herman Fillmore, who serves as the Tribal Culture and Language Resources Director, who will offer an invocation to begin our summit.
Herman Fillmore. I'd like to welcome everybody here today. As was mentioned, my name is Herman Fillmore, and I'm the Culture and Language Resources Director for the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California. It's a very big honor to be able to open this up. In '97, when the first Tahoe Summit happened, I was just a kid at the time, but I remember our elders coming up here and talking about returning to the basin for the first time in a generation. So to be here today, as a young man with my own son, and to think about the changes that have occurred in these 27 years, they've been huge for us as a tribe. the respect shown has been a big benefit for us, and it's important to continue to do so moving forward. So I'd like to just ask if everybody could stand and please remove your hat. I'm going to do a quick blessing for us, and I will translate at the end. Wading mitlel tanu a shutuet dak migies wa ea ledamo baga. Hutuet eke dugayai asha igi tiga led ezi, tiga tet ezi. Wat leo dilakalela puleo dao aga a degum dia kea. Ashwat washishu et de shimu. Liing el wat del nuji es. Hutuet eke tanu ida mushegel, ida sisu, ida atabi kesha angel luli. Hutuet eke mutsuk ida dao dish, ida dimlu mongel angawi. Mitle hutuet wa angawi. Ashteshluti te boogum tanu ibi legi udi teke del dish yakami. Ida mimshawi. Ashngawa aduku wimpeli ida go money, ida shellwat money weekly ash mimshawi. Ishka atlu del dish asha ida ngawa ida da'al yetzishi ash yahai. Wading washishu edet angau ezi. Wading lelhu washishu gumtanu digegel es igi, lelhu lahui ash diestotali gabagi. Lelhu di tsimtsim ezi, lelhu dimugagam ezi. Lelhu dikla ash ha gabagi ash ledamo baga. Wading lelhu digum mekbagu yezi. Ishnga lelhu digum hiki anga hulel, diwadoda hulel, ashngawa, ida daudish asha, ida da'al lada ejap hulel. Ashdikesha angal hugabagi. Ishka atlu washishu ete yasa ingal del nuji es, ashwa angal shimu gabagi. Dingat ledishngat, that's all I have to say. You guys can go ahead and be seated, and I was just going to do a quick English translation so everybody could understand what I said today. I said, today we are all gathered here. All of the people and all of the things that are unseen, please listen to me. All of the things that I have to say are not lies, and I'm not joking. I'm here to talk about this place, what we call in our language, Da'au Aga, Lake Tahoe. This is at the center of our homelands and one of our most important places. A long time ago, this place was healthy. Nothing was wrong here. All of the people, the animals, the birds, and the fish lived good here. All of the medicines, the forest, all of the foods grew good here, and everything was good. More recently, we've had newcomers to this place. When they arrived, they cut down all of the trees and they stole them. They dug up the ground, they took the gold and the silver that they were looking for. And because of that, our forests and our lands and our waters are no longer clean and they're sick. Today, our land is no longer good. Today, we must come together as Washoe people, and we will no longer sit here. We're going to stand together for the future, and we're going to be strong for the future. We're not here to beg. We're not here to ask. We're here to tell you what we want for the future, and we ask that you listen to us. We're going to work good together and not argue amongst each other anymore for the future. We're going to work together side by side to take care of our lands, our waters, our forests with our own two hands. And we're going to make sure that we can all live here good for the future. Because of this work that we do, our homelands will no longer be sick and they will be good forever. Thank you again.
Thank you, Herman. It's now my honor to welcome Washoe Tribal Chairman Cyril Smokey to the stage. Chairman.
Angwaheji. I'm Cyril Smokey, Chairman of the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California. We work both sides, and main reason that we're in Nevada and California is because of this area here. Again, it was just explained, that is a mispronunciation, or Tahoe is a mispronunciation of the Washoe word for the lake. What we've been doing here years ago, being pushed out of our own homelands by force through use of genocide, but we're still here, is now coming back to these lands. And I think we've come to a point to where we can't really beat around the bush anymore. And we've been kind of non-existent, including here in the Tahoe Summit for many years, even though the Washoe Tribe played a huge part in the original Lake Tahoe Summit, the very first one. So I think we've come a long way within these past years, especially within these past few years of working together and truly acknowledging, not just acknowledging the original homelands of Washoe people, but taking action on that. And I think this group up here is proof that we can do more. We can go beyond land acknowledgments. Myself working with everybody on this stage, all the organizations here today, I think is a really great thing. But we could do more. We could do better. But working together does, in collaboration and partnership, doesn't mean that we always agree. Now, the Washoe tribe itself, we have fought on the local, state, and federal level for certain protections in and around the lake. And we've succeeded in those areas. But that's why I say we can work together. There's more that we could do together for the protection of these lands. I say that because I want to give everybody an understanding of what this area truly means to us as Washoe people. It's not just a place, it's not just a destination, it's not just the most beautiful area in the world, which I truly believe it is. But I think all of us here can agree that we all love the lake. But for us, this is life. This is the center of our existence. It's the heart of our people. This is where we were created. We didn't come here from anywhere else. We didn't migrate or were pushed anywhere to belong here. Our people were from here. These waters gave us life. The earth gave us life. And so to us, everything out here is life. Everything you see, everything you feel, everything you smell, the wind, the sand, the earth, the water. Water nourishes the insides of our bodies and the outside. So that is our life to us. That is our lifeblood. And to put it in perspective, I guess you could say that the Lake Tahoe is the mother of Washoe people. I mean, you could literally say that. That's how heartfelt we are for these areas. I don't expect everybody to fully understand that. But as being here today, all of you, not just today, but anytime you're up here, it's my goal is to try to get everybody to understand that, as to that piece of us is here. So every time you come here, your memories, when you remember jumping in the water, when you remember smelling the trees and the pine and the fresh, clean air, that's a part of that Washoe spirit that you're going to be taking with you. Now, you don't have to be religious or spiritual to believe that, but that's how sacred this place is to us and our people. And that's why we will do everything we can in our power to maintain that. Again, that doesn't mean that we're here to fight and argue, but we will when we have to. And I think everybody up here will, for the protection of these lands in this lake. So I just wanted to quickly get that across, and hope that you all take that with you. I'm not going to ramble on about all the projects that we do around the lake, because you've probably heard that over and over again every single year. But as the original stewards of these lands, we continue to push to continue to be stewards of these lands, not just the original, but the current. And that's working in collaboration with all the organizations, with the forestry, keeping the forests healthy, keeping the water clear, and being able to sustain life, not for now, but for thousands of years to come. Our people have been here for thousands of years. We hope people will be here thousands of years into the future. That's our goal. Because like I said, this place is life to us. So I appreciate everybody being here. I'm going to keep it short and sweet today. Otherwise, I'll just ramble on and on. But, I appreciate the collaborations and everybody coming here today, coming together for what we're here to do, and that's protect these lands, protect this lake, and keep it healthy. I'm going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I shared with you a couple of days ago, my family's here with me. The boys have been on the shores. They've been on the lake that leap into the water you mentioned. They're going to take that with them. And the books that you shared, I shared with them, and they're eager to go home and share that with their friends and classmates when they return to school next week. It's now my honor to introduce my two colleagues who are a tremendous duo, tag team. You couldn't ask for better advocates for the state of Nevada and the United States Senate. The first I'll introduce is Senator Catherine Cortez Masto.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is always a pleasure for me to be here with everyone in Tahoe. I have to say also, it's pretty much a privilege to be here on the 50th anniversary of Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit of the U.S. Forest Service. Think about that. That's incredible. And they are just wonderful partners, and I enjoy working with them always. I also have to thank Senator Padilla for taking the lead here and stepping in. He always does. He and his staff, thank you to his staff, doing an incredible job hosting us this year. And all of the leaders that are here. Speaker Pelosi, thank you for joining us. All of my colleagues who I get a chance to work with who have been here. Smokey, Chairman Smokey, thank you for your incredible words. I did notice, though, you put California on this side, the Nevada side, and you put Nevadans on the California side, and you got my governor in the sun here. What's going on? We're used to the sun, but come on. All right, but we're here. And we will continue to work together to make sure that we are also focused on protecting and supporting this incredible jewel that we have in our two states. I also have to recognize Senator Dianne Feinstein, who really brought the Team Tahoe concept forward. For everybody in Team Tahoe, thank you. Because it was Dianne, and consistently has been Dianne, who believes in what we are doing here around Lake Tahoe. And I want to thank her, of course, Senator Reid, for both of them starting this back in '97. I was not a youngin' at the time. I actually was working for the governor at the time of Nevada, so I remember very clearly 1997 when this actually came together to preserve Lake Tahoe. And that's really why we're here, right? We love the lake. No matter our backgrounds, the work we do, our political affiliations, we love Lake Tahoe, and we want to keep it beautiful so that our children, our grandchildren, their children, everyone has the opportunity to love it as well. And that's why we have been working so hard to reauthorize this bipartisan, bicameral Lake Tahoe Restoration Act this year. Between combating invasive species, maintaining the environment, and improving water infrastructure, Lake Tahoe has received almost $105 million since this law was enacted in 2016. And that funding, and up to $10 million for water infrastructure. That's up $3 million from last year, which is why we need to extend the Restoration Act so that sustainable programs here continue getting the funding they need to keep up their operations. It really is a perfect example of a public-private partnership. At the public level, the funding that I just talked about, and all of the work that the Tahoe Fund does and Team Tahoe does to bring in all of our supporters around the lake to match those dollars. It is important. In May, we passed the reauthorization of the legislation through the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, and now Jackie and I are working to get it on the floor of the Senate so we can pass. And I know my colleagues on the House side are going to do the same thing, because we will continue to work together as we address the needs here around the lake. But we all know climate change is now impacting our daily lives. We're seeing it in the massive heat waves throughout our country and in the wildfires that are burning at an unprecedented rate. Senator Padilla mentioned this. We all remember the Caldor fire in 2021. That blazed through 221,000 acres in Tahoe, devastating our ecosystems and forcing thousands to evacuate their homes. We remember, I was here, you couldn't even see the lake. The smoke was so bad. And even though we saw record-breaking snow this winter, we are already being warned that this year's and next year's fire seasons could be more severe than normal, especially after this new vegetation dries up. So our more than 16,000 firefighters, thank you. Our firefighters are always here. They're here. Thank you for what you do. But think about this. 16,000 firefighters work overtime to protect our homes, our businesses, our natural treasure here around Lake Tahoe. And quite honestly, we should be doing everything to support them and paying them more. When we pass a bipartisan infrastructure law, firefighters got an additional boost in their salary for the hard work they're doing in these fire seasons that are now year-round. They're not just a fire season. It's longer, hotter, and they're year-round. So we were able to provide them an increase temporarily in their pay. Now we need to make it permanent. We need to make sure that we're fighting for our firefighters, making it permanent so that we can continue to work when necessary to protect everyone that lives around the lake, but the lake in general. And so that is work we're still doing in Congress. I will also say the other work we're working on is to expand access to affordable housing. Conversation we have constantly. I just had it earlier with some folks here. And we have to make sure that our firefighters not only have affordable housing as well, but we're addressing the mental health care that they need as they focus on keeping us safe. So there is work still to be done. You heard Chairman Smokey, and I was privileged last month to sit down with the Washoe Tribe and talk with them about their needs. But I also want to highlight something that is happening. This is a perfect example of our public-private partnership. He showed me around their new sawmill in Carson City that is going to be processing the dead wood from the Caldor fire, removing those trees and other timber that put the forest at risk of future fires. Talking about fuel suppression, this is how it works. This sawmill is the first of its size to be built in the area in nearly a century, and it will be critical for forest management in the Tahoe area. And I have to do a shout out to the Hardy family because they are the ones that are making this sawmill a reality in their partnership with the Washoe Tribe. This is how we do it. This is how we get it done when we're talking about forest management. So I'm so pleased. I will also say this, the Washoe Tribe and tribal nations across the country are our partners, as you've heard, in sustainability, and we should be supporting their efforts. I have introduced legislation this year to help communities and tribes like the Washoe Tribe adapt to and address wildfire issues as well. I will also say this, you all know this as well, climate change is also creating new pathways for aquatic invasive species to be introduced to Lake Tahoe and threaten the ecosystem. Through the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act, over $5 million is being dedicated to combating invasive species this fiscal year. That's $700,000 more than last year. And we're working to monitor, contain, and prevent invasive species. Senator Rosen and I have made sure Congress is dedicating crucial funding and resources to that effort. And as we work to protect Lake Tahoe from environmental threats, we also have to be cognizant of the human impact of the increasing numbers of visitors that we see in recent years. For many of us, our love of Lake Tahoe makes us want to share it so everyone can experience its beauty. But part of what sustains Tahoe is its tourism economy. But researchers at the University of Nevada, Reno, by the way, the president and former governor of Nevada is here joining us. Governor Sandel, thank you. But researchers at UNR and the Desert Research Institute are seeing a connection between the increase in human presence here and a dramatic uptick in the amount of trash and microplastics that end up in our lake. We know that as more visitors flock to Lake Tahoe, outnumbering the permanent residents, we have a responsibility to work together on destination management and ensure we're keeping the land and the water here clean. Conversations around Lake Tahoe tend to center around the environment and the water, but we also know the people are what make this place work, and we need to be doing more to Lake Tahoe's to help our permanent year-round residents, many of whom have lived in the region for decades. We've all seen the traffic around the lake this year. We need to keep investing in improved roadways like State Route 28, as well as reliable and cleaner public transportation options to get our cars off the road. We also need a more affordable housing, as I've said. That's why Senator Rosen and I are working and will continue to work on addressing our affordable housing needs. But we also helped deliver millions of dollars this year to improve Tahoe's bus system. And always will be working to make it easier to not only afford that affordable housing, but address the transportation needs around our lake. You all know this. We know this here sitting on this dais, but we have a responsibility for protecting today's lake and the Lake Tahoe of the future. It's up to all of us to make sure that this incredible place endures for people here now and in the future. And I look forward to continuing to work with all of you to make that happen. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Senator Jackie Rosen.
Well, good morning, everyone. I am so thrilled to be here with all of my friends at the Tahoe Summit, 27th Annual Tahoe Summit. Amazing. A special thanks, of course, to Senator Padilla for hosting again this year, all the members of Congress who are here with us, committed to protecting Lake Tahoe, our governors, California and Nevada, committed to protecting Lake Tahoe, and thank you. I look out, Generation Green, the future of protecting Lake Tahoe, but all the organizations, the agencies, the advocates, everyone who makes up Team Tahoe, through your work, through your caring, through your heart. We just want to make sure that it remains one of the most pristine and beautiful lakes in the world. And I, along with everyone else, would like to acknowledge Tahoe's first community, the Washoe Tribe. Chairman Smokey, thank you, and thank you for the beautiful prayer earlier. You have been stewards of the land, and I'm going to close with talking about what it means to do that, but we appreciate all that you've done for thousands of years, and we want to partner with you to continue that stewardship. And so now for decades, the summit's been essential in advancing the joint bipartisan efforts to be sure that what you're looking at right behind me, Lake Tahoe, stays the way it is. It's a critical part of our ecosystem. It has deep cultural significance for so many, and of course, it plays a role in the economic success of both our states. And so when we invest in efforts to protect Lake Tahoe, we're investing in people, the people who live here, the people who work here, people who come to visit here and heal themselves, this beautiful lake, and just come to enjoy the spirituality they feel, the calmness that they feel. And then, of course, they support all the small businesses that surround the lake and the lake ecosystem. They all call Nevada and California home. So by protecting our national treasure of Lake Tahoe, we're protecting our local jobs, and we're protecting our local small businesses. And as Nevada Senator, along with Senator Cortez Masto, we are committed to protecting Lake Tahoe for our future generations. I keep looking out at Generation Green. They're the future here. So together across our two states, we want to meet the needs of this unique place. We want to protect the water quality. We want to protect against invasive species, defending our communities from threats like wildfire, drought, flooding, and the like. And so today's forum, we're going to discuss the changing climate and its impact on what? On all of us, on our communities. And so this year's summit theme rightly focuses on the urgent work that we must do to protect Tahoe from the reality of climate change, because the climate crisis is having a direct impact. It's a dire impact on both of our states. And from this year's record-breaking temperatures and more severe drought, we know that the climate crisis is hurting communities all across the region. And the longer we fail to act, the greater the threat it will pose to Lake Tahoe. So here we are. Everyone's talking about it. We are taking action. We passed the Historic Inflation Reduction Act just over a year ago. And that was the single largest investment, piece of climate legislation in U.S. history, actually. It invested over $370 billion into climate action, and specifically $4 billion in funding coming to combat drought in western states like ours. And so I'm proud to have introduced legislation with Senator Cortez Masto, Senator Feinstein, Senator Padilla to reauthorize, of course, the very important Lake Tahoe Restoration Act. And then this landmark law, we know, is set to expire next year, but it is one of the strongest protections that Lake Tahoe has, because it prioritizes the funding for forest health, for reducing those hazardous fuels, for our watershed restoration, for environmental improvement programs, invasive species management, and so many other things right here in Lake Tahoe. And so we must extend this authorization, and I know all of us will keep fighting to ensure that we do. And so, thank you. And funding for Lake Tahoe is coming from the bipartisan infrastructure law. I was proud to help write and pass that along with my colleagues, many members that are here today. And that legislation provides $17 million through the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act, as well as funding, as Senator Cortez Masto mentioned. We're going to upgrade and repair the roads, making better trails all around the basin, making the lake accessible to all, and protecting our future, Lake Tahoe's future. It requires dedicated people at every single level to get this done, working hard every day. And so these are just some of the ways that we're doing it. And today, here we are, bringing together lawmakers, local leaders, Democrats and Republicans, longtime activists, the next generation, all stewards of this land, prior generations. Every single one of us here with that deep commitment and that passion to protect the future. And so it's this kind of pragmatic and bipartisan collaboration between lawmakers, between our states. It's monumental, and the efforts, they're really working. And so last year I was really fortunate. My husband was up here with me. We're fortunate to come every year and just really sit here and look and reflect on the lake and what it means to all of us and the serenity and peace that we feel when we're here. A place that's been enjoyed by generations, and it's each of us. It's up to each of us to ensure its future. And the last thing I want to say, and I said this last night when we were with some other folks, is I want everyone to use your senses as I close. So first, look out. You're all looking out at the lake. And close your eyes for a moment. Listen to the wind and the trees. Listen to the sound of the waves. Smell the beautiful fresh air. Feel what it feels like to be here. I don't know. We can all give all the great speeches we want, but I think the lake speaks for itself. So thank you for being here, and I look forward to all the work we're going to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Rosen. You know, it's clear we have champions for Tahoe in the United States Senate, but there's two chambers of Congress that make initiatives and funding possible. Next, we have two speakers from the House of Representatives from the state of California's 3rd Congressional District. Please welcome Congressman Kiley.
Good morning. I'm Kevin Kiley, and I'm proud to represent the entire California portion of Lake Tahoe in the U.S. House of Representatives. I also happen to represent Mammoth and Death Valley, by the way. You'd think the only way to represent all of these landmarks is to have Senator Padilla's job and literally represent the whole state. But as fate, or in any case 15 citizen line drawers would have it, they all fall within the new 3rd Congressional District. So I have this amazing opportunity to represent a vast area with some of the most glorious parts of our state, of our whole country. And Tahoe, of course, is a national treasure without peer. I want to thank everyone who is here today for this summit. I want to thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, both chambers of Congress, for your attention to Tahoe. I want to thank our partners at the federal, state, regional, local, and tribal level. I want to thank everyone who shares our vision, our common commitment to a Tahoe that will continue to dazzle for generations to come. You know, people often ask me, how are we ever going to overcome the rancor and division that bogs down our politics, each year seemingly more than the year before? It's a hard question. My best answer is through common projects that are of local, regional importance. And Tahoe is a perfect example, spanning 2 states, numerous overlapping jurisdictions, board members appointed by Republican and Democrat governors, by red and blue counties. Just look at the diversity of viewpoints among the speakers today, and yet we can all agree on the goal of protecting something that is larger than any of us, that is timeless. Sustainability and stewardship, as this year's program is titled, is a call to action we can rally around regardless of political differences. Tahoe means different things to different people. It's a place of global renown, the site of famous international gatherings, conferences, and competitions. It's a place for water and snow sports, for hiking and biking, for lake life and cozy cabins. But for tens of thousands of people, it's something much more. It's home. For families, for students, for retirees, it's a precious and beloved home, not just because of the blueness of the lake or the beauty of the mountain, but the vibrant communities that animate the basin. Yet these communities are also facing growing challenges. Challenges around housing, workforce needs, infrastructure, traffic, and parking threaten the quality of life of our residents and workers, who are our strongest allies in the project of stewardship. We all have an important role to play in addressing these challenges while maintaining the character and accessibility of the Tahoe region. The biggest challenge of all is the one that came to our doorstep 2 years ago. Tahoe is a beautiful place, but there are far too many formerly beautiful places in our state. Just yesterday, I walked through Volcanoville, another part of my district which was struck by the mosquito fire. The lush forest is still there in some areas, but reduced to barren stems in others, bearing the scars of destruction and trauma. Centuries will go by before it is ever the same. Such scenes are, of course, all too familiar in this region, following the devastation of the Calder Fire. Yet the blaze was defeated here, and our communities were spared, thanks to mitigation efforts done in Christmas Valley, along, of course, with the preparation and heroism, true heroism, of our firefighters and first responders. We must build on that vital success, learn the lessons of the Calder and other fires, and do everything we can to assure that such a catastrophe does not threaten our communities again. As the representative of Lake Tahoe, that is my first and highest priority. To that end, in this year's budget bills, I've secured the inclusion of funding for concrete projects that will help protect Lake Tahoe from wildfire, including funding to help the South Tahoe Public Utility District and the North Tahoe Public Utility District to upsize water lines with capacity for firefighting, and to install new fire hydrants, new water storage tanks, emergency generators, and critical interties between the public and private water companies throughout the basin. Right here in Kings Beach, just 2 streets away, on Rainbow and Golden Avenue, construction crews have already installed 12 new fire hydrants and replaced over 7,000 feet of 2-inch water line that was installed in the 1950s with a new 8-inch water line that can deliver 1,500 gallons of water per minute to those fire hydrants to protect this community. We've got tremendous leaders here in this community who are working on these things every day. I'm also co-sponsoring legislation to strengthen our wildfire preparedness and mitigation efforts. This includes co-sponsoring the Proven Forest Management Act, which would expand throughout the national forest system the categorical exclusion for forest management projects that was secured for the Tahoe Basin and that proved so crucial in stopping the Calder Fire. In addition, both the Forest Protection and Wildland Firefighter Safety Act and Emergency Wildfire Fighting Technology Act will ensure our firefighters are equipped with the most effective tools. 2 other bills, the Fire Department Repayment Act and Direct Hire to Fight Fires Act, support hiring at both the local and federal level. And finally, we must ensure that our federal firefighters are paid a sustainable wage. That's why I'm co-sponsoring H.R. 4970 to give them a permanent base pay increase. Protecting Tahoe is a responsibility for all of us. At the same time, it is an opportunity to forge new partnerships, to form habits of cooperation and collaboration as we work to protect a wonder of the world and build a better future together. Thank you very much.
Next, we'll hear from Congressmember John Garamendi, whose district may not touch the shoreline of Lake Tahoe, but he's no stranger to the summit, no stranger to the region, a tremendous champion that works well along with all of us. John?
You'll have to excuse me for just a moment, as I've been watching. A microplastic. There's a name that keeps coming up here, and that name's been very, very much on my mind. In 1996, as I was the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Interior, I received a call from Dianne Feinstein. She said, "Hey, John, Harry Reid and I have figured it out. Las Vegas wants to grow. They're willing to buy the BLM land, and I know exactly where the money should go. And we need to celebrate." And so it was in 1997, about 6 miles to the east of here, the very first summit took place. And every year since that time, Senator Feinstein has made certain, absolutely certain, that money would continue to come to California. Her determination to protect this lake, her entire life at this lake, was manifested in that legislation and in the years that she's been in Congress, in the Senate. And here we are. Her determination this fall in the appropriation process will once again manifest in money flowing into this basin for all the projects that you've heard of today and many beyond. Her determination is matched by each and every one of you that are here. You are the ones, together with the senators and the governors and the members of Congress, but you are the bottom, you are the foundation upon which all this work will be done. And so I want to thank each and every one of you. I want to thank Senator Feinstein for her determination these many, many years. We've got work to do. And you know the answers, each and every one of you. In your particular area of expertise, you'll carry it out. And know that we'll be there with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for this year's summit and for the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressmember Garamendi. Before I bring up the next speaker, I just got to say, there is no bluer half of the lake. The lake is blue or it's not. Let's keep Tahoe blue. Please welcome Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo.
Thank you, Senator Padilla. You know, you can't just throw that out there without providing some context, right? So we had a nice little get-together last night for some of the significant donators to the Tahoe and the TRPA and what we're trying to achieve here today. So I had the opportunity to address the crowd, and we were staged on the Nevada side of the lake. And you can distinctly tell it was bluer on our side. And then Gavin Newsom pointed out that I was attempting as a Republican to make the lake blue and Nevada blue. And I'm here to tell you that's not happening. So, and then the congressman upstaged everybody by putting this lid out there and acted like he was cleaning up the joint. So, but it's
Let's work together.
all right. We're working together. We're absolutely working together, and I think that's the important piece. And the benefit of speaking, I believe, number 5 is you don't have to hear me drone on with all the stats, and I've cut my speech in half. But I think it's important for you to hear some very important points today on behalf of the state of Nevada, to include the state of California, because this is all about partnership, right? It's about bipartisan partnership, and that's the complete intent of what we're trying to achieve, to ensure that we maintain Tahoe into the future, for today's generation and future generations. So I want to thank everybody for participating today. I want to thank everybody for listening today, and be aware of the concerns that we have that should be your concern also. There was a lot of talk about different projects that have been brought forward, but it all boils down to, you know, the infrastructure. It boils down to the water. It boils down to the emergency management, and quite often we talked about the firefighters. But I don't want it to be lost, and I'll default to my background, the law enforcement that is also engaged in what we're trying to achieve here. So can we get a round of applause for the law enforcement? So I had several items that I wanted to discuss, but a lot of them have been mentioned already. But I just want you comfortable in knowing, on behalf of the state of Nevada and the governor of the state of Nevada, our commitment to the partnership, our commitment to the communication, our commitment to the emergency management and the identified failures from previous events, and ensure that we're working together and talking and communicating, and ensure that those failures do not happen again. And on the, you know, frankly, on behalf of the state of Nevada, I can say nothing more than I am fully committed in my position as the governor to fully commit any resources, labor, or communication, or ideas for the success of Lake Tahoe into the future. So I want to thank everybody for being here today, and I appreciate everybody's paying attention and ensuring that we do affect change into the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor, for being a good sport. So you've heard from a lot of policymakers, and we do take genuine joy in celebrating wins when we're able to secure funding, when we're able to have projects approved or initiatives established, but we also know that it's a lot of folks that work in administration on the federal side and the state side and the local side that actually implement, that actually are the experience and expertise and counsel us, make recommendations on what we should include in budgets and legislation. So we're going to hear from a few folks. Our next speaker is the Regional Forester on behalf of the U.S. Forest Service. Please welcome Jennifer Eberling.
All right. Thank you so much, Senator Padilla, for hosting and being such a terrific host as always, and for the opportunity to speak to so many of you that care so deeply about Lake Tahoe. We all share the love of the land for the lake and the 156,000 acres around it that are national forest lands. So I'm very happy to be able to conserve and be part of all of you working together to maintain and even better this whole area that we're around. So I'm personally thankful for partners, our local, state, federal, tribal nations that we work with, certainly with the Washoe Tribe and Chairman Smokey and his people, in order to even improve it even further. Very much looking forward to the sawmill that's coming in too as well, and how we can continue to work together on that. We're thankful for the funding opportunities that Congress has given us, the Great American Outdoors Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the bipartisan infrastructure law. All of those funds that have been mentioned today are really going to some amazing projects that we have around the lake. And as we have this funding, we are able to continue to provide that strategic, responsible planning as we all work together in the future. So I know that we've heard a lot about some of the projects that we have, but there are three things that I want to make sure we mention today. First is happy birthday, Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit. It is 50 years. 1973, carved out of the El Dorado, the Tahoe, and now the Humboldt-Toyabe National Forest, as the recognition that this deserves that attention and that special management. So I was also asked, I'd say maybe threaten you all to lead a happy birthday song. I won't subject you to my singing voice, so you can all thank me later, but I just put the earworm in you. So now you got happy birthday on your mind. So again, half a century under our belts. Think what we can all do together in the next 50 years. I'm very looking forward to it. On behalf of the Forest Service, we are committed We are with you on this journey. We are inclusive in our discussions. We have challenges that we have that all of you have know about and have been mentioned. We want to focus on the scientific research of climate change. We want to continue our forest health and fuels reduction, our water quality, our habitat protection, and managing the growing recreation that are here and being welcoming to all the visitors as well as the residents that are here in Lake Tahoe. So we're so thankful for all the communities that are invested with us in that. All of our partners share a vision of promoting healthy landscapes in a fire-dependent ecosystem, and we need to empower all of us as stakeholders to really take care of the public lands. Okay, second, again, I'd like to highlight Tahoe's Environmental Improvement Program and the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act. The improvement program is a successful bipartisan, bi-state collaboration established in the 1997 Presidential Forum that has been mentioned here today. It builds on a partnership of 50 local, state, federal agencies, private entities, science, Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California, all working to restore the environmental health of Lake Tahoe. And it represents so much hands-on, so much collective knowledge that we can capitalize on and keep moving forward. These collaborations are central to protecting the land and water in and around. I want to add to that the special funding that has been mentioned by Congressman Garamendi about Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act, SNPLMA. There's your acronym for the day. SNPLMA, the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act, which provides many of the fuels treatments that we are doing around the basin. The Bureau of Land Management, I want to give a shout out to my federal sister partner that is an invaluable partner in delivering the work of the ground through SNPLMA for all of us. Also, the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act is critical in directing federal funds to vital hazardous fuels reduction and wetland restoration projects in the basin. And finally, third, this past January, the Forest Service designated lands adjacent to Lake Tahoe Basin as part of the Sierra and Elko Front's Wildfire Crisis Strategy landscape. With that announcement, we are bringing $57 million in investment to reduce risk to communities, critical infrastructure, and ecosystems. So for the Sierra Front, the Humboldt-Toyabe National Forest and Nevada Shared Stewardship Partners are ramping up the capacity, pace, and scale of fuels reduction and forest health projects. And all of this work will benefit the greater Lake Tahoe area. So with all this good work happening, we know there's much more to do. That's what we've got the next 50 years and earlier to solve, to face those challenges of climate change and increasingly unpredictable weather. And as you've heard, Lake Tahoe saw firsthand this past winter the endless stream of atmospheric rivers that dropped record amounts of snow. We know this puts growing demands on the regional infrastructure and access. So to face those challenges, we're looking forward and continue to find skilled forestry professionals to accomplish the work. So very thankful to the Lake Tahoe Community College, who last fall launched a new forestry education and job placement program. They are preparing students for careers in a very understaffed field. Thank you. And I want to all give out kudos to the Tahoe Fund for providing scholarships to every student that enrolled last year in this inaugural program. So those are the kinds of partnerships that really make the positive change happen. Final thank you to research partners at University of Nevada and the Forest Service's Pacific Southwest Research Station as they are developing a world-class monitoring system, the Tahoe Environmental Observatory Network, to understand how our forests, meadows, streams are changing in response to climate and how management can maintain and improve environmental quality across the basin. So again, as everyone, I want to thank you all for attending the Tahoe Summit. We have the team spirit that unites all of us in our love for Lake Tahoe, and your commitment allows us to continue building more resilient landscapes and make progress on sustainable recreation. We're stronger always when we work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Our next speaker serves as chair of the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency's governing board. Please welcome Cindy Gustafson.
Thank you, everyone. And yes, I serve as chair of TRPA this year. I'm very honored to represent our 15 board members here. But I'm also the county supervisor, and I want to welcome everyone to Placer County. We're here in Kings Beach, and what a beautiful place we have. We're very fortunate to live in one of the best counties in the state. With incredible Lake Tahoe as our backdrop and inspiration today, we have so much to be grateful for and much to continue working towards, and you've heard that from everyone today. But on behalf of the TRPA Governing Board, I'd like to thank you all for joining us here in the hot sun. I've sat out there many years and know you're roasting. Thank you for bearing with us. And thank you, Senator Padilla, for bringing us all together. And I want to thank all the esteemed leaders on the stage for their steadfast commitment to preserving this lake and working with us to restore it to its magnificence. I'd like to recognize all of you out there because many of you that I've seen today are local elected officials serving every single day taking care of this lake. Many of you are public servants working in those local agencies. Many of you are business owners, employees, residents, and working with nonprofits to help take care of this lake. It takes us all. And as Senator Feinstein so aptly called us, Team Tahoe. So thank you for your efforts. On this 27th annual summit, it is clear that a bi-state, bipartisan collaboration remains absolutely essential for the good of Lake Tahoe. And that isn't easy. We don't always agree. We don't many times agree, but we do try to understand each other and find that compromise, and we need to in order to take care of this lake. 53 years ago, Tahoe's future was in serious jeopardy, and in 1969, two visionary governors, Governor Reagan in California and Governor Laxalt of Nevada, came together to create TRPA. It was the first of its kind, one-of-a-kind agency in the nation with a bi-state regional environmental authority. We take that job seriously today. Our 15 board members representing both states, the federal government, and 6 local governments. We take that job very seriously and use science-based policies that to achieve the critical environmental and community goals that we have for this area. The volunteer board is collaborative by design, by the vision that was set by those two governors that we must work together to steward this lake. Early on in that bi-state framework, our federal partnership brought many great achievements. The banning of septic systems here in the basin, wastewater export, very stringent growth management plans, and restrictive development caps, protections for sensitive lands, and also very significant public land acquisitions. But despite all those efforts, in the early 90s, we realized the lake was still losing clarity. And that's when we came together with the first summit in 1997 to establish the Lake Tahoe Environmental Improvement Program that you've heard about, the EIP. And it was under the leadership of then President Clinton, Vice President Al Gore, Senator Harry Reid, and Senator Feinstein to set that federal partnership together to come and support the efforts that were happening here locally. Thanks to that, more than 800 projects have been completed since that first summit, and I want to read a few of those accomplishments. We have improved 198 miles of bike and pedestrian trails, trying to get away from automobile transportation. We have inspected over 107 watercraft for aquatic invasive species, and our partners have retrofitted 836 miles of roadway with stormwater improvements to protect water quality. And with the leadership of the U.S. Forest Service, CAL FIRE, Division of Forestry, and our basin fire chiefs that are all sitting right over here, more than 92,000 acres of forest have been treated to reduce hazardous fuels. Some of this work obviously saved us during the Caldor fire, so thank you for your efforts. We are proud to do the work we do, but there's 80 organizations, many of you are out here today, that are in the trenches every day doing these projects to make this a reality. We have much more to do, and like much of the world today, we're facing new challenges with climate change, aquatic invasive species, and extreme weather. How many of us remember this last winter? I see some nodding and some backaches from snow shoveling. Our epic collaboration needs to continue. We must improve Tahoe's transportation system, a passion of mine for many years. We must manage visitation, the demands for outdoor recreation, address housing for our workforce, and of course, double down on our forest resiliency projects. Inspiring me today is to be up here with these leaders who are committing to all of us their commitment to take care of this lake. So I can't thank you enough for that commitment to this area and to this very special place that we all treasure. So on behalf of the TRPA board and staff, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Our next speaker also plays a pivotal role in so many of the projects that we're talking about. Please welcome Lieutenant Colonel Diana Lively from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Good afternoon. I would like this opportunity to acknowledge Senator Alex Padilla and Catherine Cortez Masto and their office staff, the Tahoe Fund, and the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency for uniting all the stakeholders here and the Tahoe Basin partners for this event. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is the nation's environmental engineers. Our environmental mission is to serve the nation through superior management, design, and execution of full range of cleanup and protection activities. We are one of the leading federal ecosystem restoration agencies in the Lake Tahoe Basin, and we have worked with local, state, federal partners since 1997 to preserve the lake's prized clarity by restoring natural inflows and controlling invasive species. We build and restore critical wildlife habitats for endangered species and replenish eroded shorelines and marshlands. We regulate activities that impact our nation's waterways and wetlands to protect and restore important resources and aquatic habitats. The Army Corps of Engineers is an active partner in preserving and protecting the natural beauty of the Tahoe Basin. We participate in the Tahoe Partnership Program, provide funding to the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency and the California Tahoe Conservancy to support aquatic invasive species eradication and upper Truckee Marsh restoration through Section 108 programs. We've worked with rural communities in Nevada on water and wastewater improvement projects, and we've executed Section 595 Design and Construction Assistance for Project Partnership Agreement in the Incline Village General Improvement District to provide $5.7 million for construction of a 2 million gallon effluent storage tank and $4.3 million for 7 miles of new effluent pipeline. The Army Corps of Engineers has a history of supporting ecosystem restoration in the Tahoe Basin. We worked with the California Tahoe Conservancy to restore 44 acres of wetlands in the Lake Forest Meadow and restore the natural flow of 1,500 feet of Lake Forest Creek. We worked with California Tahoe Conservancy to restore and stabilize 1,100 feet of Blackwood Creek and 1 acre of the surrounding habitat. We partnered with the Nevada State Lands and to reverse damage caused by the Comstock-era irrigation. And in 2007, we started working with the U.S. Forest Service and the California Tahoe Conservancy to restore 83 acres of damage in the Angora Fire watershed by stabilizing the soil and replanting native plant communities. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers will continue to support future environmental programs in the Tahoe Basin. This year, Tahoe experienced a significant snowfall event that resulted in flooding that impacted residents, business, water, and wastewater systems in the Tahoe Basin. When called upon, USACE provides technical assistance to address these issues. USACE is prepared and ready to respond to future disasters and emergencies brought on by the climate crisis, not only across the nation, but right in our own backyard, helping our neighbors. We will be there when called upon to help protect and maintain treasures we call the Tahoe Basin. We will continue to offer technical assistance, providing flood planning management and ecosystem restoration, services to our partners and agencies in the Tahoe Basin. We will pursue project partnership agreements where USACE provides technical assistance and design and construction for environmental restoration and surface water projects. We will provide technical assistance for Section 219 water and wastewater improvements for small districts located around the lake and in rural California and Nevada. We will continue to pursue collaborations under the Section 1121 Tribal Partnership Program, where USACE can provide technical assistance for restoration and infrastructure of the local tribal nations. Protecting Lake Tahoe is vital. This event, this gathering of federal, state, and local leaders who are dedicated to preserving one of our nation's most beautiful natural settings is vital. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is proud to stand side by side with you, our partners. Our resolve to continue working with all of you to improve the sustainability and stewardship of the treasure in the face of climate crisis is unwavering. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel. You know, I was keeping track, as every speaker that's presented already has spoken, and they've all either mentioned something about our children or about our grandchildren, or they've mentioned something about the next generation or about future generations, plural. And we've talked so much about the future of this basin that it is now the time in our program to acknowledge some of the youth leaders who will be tasked with carrying on this work in the future. 8 youth members of Generation Green. Now, Generation Green, for those of you who may not be familiar, is an 8-week work-study program that gives local high school students the opportunity to build job skills and a lifelong love of the environment while working alongside the Forest Service on critical conservation and recreation projects. We're incredibly grateful for their contributions this summer. I want to thank them in advance for their leadership as the lake's next generation of stewards. And as you're all aware, we do have some certificates thanking you for your service this summer. So as I call your name and as you come forward, I'll hand it to you. We'll just line up here in front of the podium. First, Kazim Keyser. Hope I pronounced it. Not here? Okay. Brianna Salas. Vanessa Galicia. Kane Nolan. Next is Sonnet Van Doren. Angelina Perkins. Here, not here. Robert Lawrence. And Savannah Alexander. All right, those who aren't present, we'll make sure to get them their certificates and our thanks. But one more round of applause for our Generation Green leaders. Thank you. You may be seated. I almost want to ask for a drum roll now. Because now it is my profound honor to welcome our keynote speaker for the day. Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi has served in the United States House of Representatives for 36 years, including 20 years as either House Democratic leader or as Speaker of the House, becoming the first woman and the first Californian to serve as Speaker. And during that time, she has been dedicated to driving the nation towards a greener, more sustainable future. Among her most recent and remarkable achievements is the landmark Inflation Reduction Act, the largest investment in history to confront the climate crisis. And also, I don't think there's been any significant piece of the legislation the last couple of decades that has been approved, that has been signed into law, that does not have her fingerprints all over it. She continues to stand as an unparalleled example of bold legislative action, and we are more than honored to have her with us today. Please welcome Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Senator Padilla, for your very generous introduction. More importantly, for your great leadership. Coming to the Senate effective from the start, that is so demonstrated here today. Your second year in having this one, I don't know if that was Zoom or what, but nonetheless, the leadership continues. And thank all of you for what you have done. Your work is so important. We can do all of our maneuvering in the legislative branch, in the governor's office and the rest, but the outside mobilization, the support that you bring to it, both intellectual resource and also organizational resources, makes all of this possible. So today is your celebration as we celebrate Lake Tahoe. I want to thank the Senator for the invitation to be here. I'm honored to be here in the company of the governor of Nevada, and I'm glad you acknowledged that Gavin was, our governor, Newsom was there last night. You had your friendly exchange there, and Senators Cortez Masto and Jackie Rosen don't make us so proud in the Congress, as do you, Senator Padilla. I want to say that Senator Feinstein may not be here in person, but she certainly has her presence here. As has been said, effective just all the way from the start, she has treasured Lake Tahoe, not just when she's here at meetings, but every place she goes. She has, I'll just read you this quote from her, because it's a funny thing, because she has come here her whole life. And this is what she said. Tell them this. I was a child in Lake Tahoe. I was an adult at Lake Tahoe. I am a senator for Lake Tahoe, and I'm determined that Lake Tahoe will survive. Senator Feinstein. She had a little accident, but she's fine, home and fine, and sends her warm regards to all of you and wishes that she could be here. I want to say that it's an official pleasure for me to be here with colleagues and then others from governor's office, etc. But it is also a personal privilege and pleasure. Many of you, I see Francesca, many of you know that our family has been coming here for almost 50 years, certainly over 40-some years, to enjoy Lake Tahoe. What a glorious place it is. I must say, being a Mediterranean myself, the water's a little cold for me, but but I don't tell my kids that. I just say, whether it's water skiing or running in the ocean or just observing it, it's so wonderful. And Senator Feinstein, as she said, had been enjoying it her whole life. My husband, Paul, now you're all too young, you weren't born yet, but his family used to come in the center and go to something called Tahoe Tavern. And my whole life I've been hearing about Tahoe Tavern right on the lake, and so it doesn't exist now because it's moved on. And then everybody moved on to Stowaway, to Brockway on your side. So in any event, there's a long history even before my own family, but Paul's family before. So this is a precious place to us, personally, officially, and naturally. When we heard the beautiful prayer, well, it was supposed to be an elder, but it wasn't an elder. It was a beautiful prayer about the future. And Smokey, Mr. Smokey, Chairman Smokey, the remarks that you made are so important. I want you to know that our president, President Biden, when we did these bills, the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, when we did the bipartisan, we're so proud of our bipartisan infrastructure bill, he always made it clear to us that in shaping and in passing and enforcing those bills, that we would listen to our tribes, because they have been the custodians, as stewards, as you said, of that land, and we don't want to be building roads, redirecting water, whatever it happens to be, without listening to the tribes and their superior wisdom and all of it. And I must say, I'm also very pleased that you're preserving the language. It's so lovely to hear. So here we are. You've heard so many facts and figures today, and why is I'm not going to repeat them, although they are part of our motivation. This is data-driven. It was important to hear the commitment in dollars and cents, in timetables and the rest, as to what the commitment is. This Generation Green, we have such an obligation to them. Now, you saw Generation Green from the front. From the back, I saw leaders today, tomorrow, and forever. Thank you, because this is about you. About you. Nearly 3 decades ago, well, really more, we seemingly saw the impossible task to rescue the jewel of the Sierra, Lake Tahoe. And thanks to the innovative and visionary leadership of the Tahoe Fund, League to Save Lake Tahoe, so many more, there was launched an ambitious and effective initiative, again, restoring this natural wonder and preserving this economic engine. This summit has even drawn, as has been mentioned, 2 presidents of the United States, Bill Clinton with Al Gore in the first summit, Barack Obama in 2016, a testament to the importance of Tahoe, not to just here, but to the nation. Since the turn of the century, the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act has been the foundation of our efforts. All of our leaders have referenced that. And while we make remarkable progress, more work remains to be done. That's why it is imperative that we extend the authorization of the LTRA, the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act, for another decade. Let us salute the leaders of the bipartisan, bicameral legislation, Senators Feinstein, Padilla, Cortez Masto, and Rosen. In the House, John Garamendi, Mark Amade, Dina Titus, Susie Lee, Steve Horsford from your state governor. And as we gather this year, your theme, sustainability, and thank you for your, I was talking to Congressman Kiley earlier, and I said, each of us thinks we have the most beautiful district in the country. And he said, I happen to be right. And you can see the justification for it. There is stiff competition for the honor. But thank you for your leadership as well, Congressman. Sustainability and stewardship in the face of the climate crisis is so urgent. The climate emergency is posing new, unique, and compounding challenges to our efforts even to save Lake Tahoe. So again, thank you to the students of Generation Green for taking the responsibility. We're proud of the historic climate action in our Inflation Reduction Act. Next week, August 16th, since we're mentioning anniversaries and the rest, will be the 1-year anniversary. That's when President Biden signed the bill. There will be a ceremony to acknowledge that. And we're proud of it. It's investing in clean energy, improving community resilience. In order to do that effectively, we have to listen to our tribes. We have to listen to all of you. Let me just say a word about the climate crisis. Addressing it is so very, very important. It's a health issue. It's about clean air, clean water for our children to breathe in a about environmental justice so that we have fairness in how we make our decisions. It's about jobs, 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 jobs here on the ground, jobs in competition with other countries of new green technologies. We have to compete to keep America number one. It's a national security issue. It's a national security issue. Our security experts tell us that unless we address this issue, the competition for habitat and for resources will cause migrations, will cause conflict, and we can prevent that from happening. We can prevent that from happening. You already see some of it happening. And then, but we wanted to curb its growth. And then it is a moral issue. As you believe, as do I, that this is God's creation and we have a moral responsibility to be responsible for it, to be good stewards of it, then we must act. And we have no better model in terms of habitat and resources and respect for nature and our responsibility to God's creation than we have from our tribal leaders. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, for your leadership in that regard. Okay, so in California and Nevada, we share an acute understanding of the climate threat as intensifying wildfires have ravaged both our states. You've heard the reference to the Caldor Fire. You need hear about it. You know about it. It remains seared in the minds of those who call Lake Tahoe home. To that end, let us recognize again the leadership of the U.S. Forest Service. And once again, let us applaud the heroism of our firefighters. I call to our firefighters every chance I get, every opportunity I have, I take to refer to you as our nation's nobility. You are the people of courage. You keep us safe. We're so proud of you and the courage that each and every one of you has to take this responsibility. So we want to make sure you have the recognition you deserve, and certainly that means you must have the pay and access to housing, etc., that you deserve. But especially this pay, we all agreed it was very bipartisan to have that in the infrastructure bill. Mike Thompson from California was instrumental. He has lots of fires in his district too. And again, as was mentioned, we want to make that permanent. We owe you that. You've done so much for us. Thank you. Thank you to our firefighters. Now it is my special privilege today to offer a tribute to one of the MVPs of Team Tahoe, Senator Dianne Feinstein, once again. Again, she has long been one of the staunchest Tahoe advocates, steering billions of dollars in federal funds to the basin to preserve the lake and the forest. Now, Dianne has been a champion of the environment, whether it's Lake Tahoe, whether it's the forest, whether it's the deserts of California. Her service and leadership in the Senate has been a real blessing to our state, but also to our planet for all that means. Her leadership was recognized with the inaugural Lake Tahoe Award in 2021. That was the first time it was given, the Lake Tahoe Award in 2021. How fitting it is that her legacy is immortalized as now that award is called the Dianne Feinstein Lake Tahoe Award. It now bears her name, and we're so proud of that. We're so proud of that. So as we go forward again in the sustainability and stewardship of Lake Tahoe, but also of our planet, let us recognize what has been said here all over and over. This is bipartisan. It is by state. It's the House and in the Senate bicameral. So much commitment to it. And working together is absolutely, totally essential to get the job done. So I will just close by saying I want to remember one of Tahoe's greatest champions and the godfather of this summit, Harry Reid, my dear friend. I served with him for years. When I was speaker and he was leader, and both in minority positions as well. At his last summit as the Senate leader in 2016, where he brought Obama, as was mentioned earlier, Harry said, these are his words, "Today's Tahoe summit is a celebration of progress and a celebration of unity. That there still is much more to be done." That was true then, and it is true now. We must remain united as we continue our fight so that generations to come can enjoy this national treasure. Thank you all for your leadership. The podium here. See, you have the advantage of having the view of the lake. We have the advantage of having the view of you. You've done so much, and the future, which will be doing so much more. So we must remain nation. And thank you all, as I say, for your leadership in the past, in the present, and in the future to ensure the future, the brilliance of this jewel of the Sierra, Lake Tahoe. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. The entire state of California, not just the Tahoe region, the entire country has been fortunate to have your leadership for so many years now. I do have to confess, to me it feels weird to say Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, because to me you'll always be my speaker. And in Washington talk, we know there's only one speaker at a time, but there's only one Nancy Pelosi. Please, another round of applause for our keynote speaker. It's now my honor to introduce pre-recorded remarks from a public servant who we all know well, who has spent a career dedicated to protecting California's public lands. We would not be here today without her leadership. I had, just so you all know, some of you pay real close attention to the news. My colleague, Senator Feinstein, had a little stumble yesterday. She's back home. I talked to her before the summit began. Her response to me, Nancy can relate, was, "Why all the fuss? I'm fine." We'll be back at work, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. She couldn't be here today, but we would not be here without her vision and her leadership. As a champion for our state and a tireless advocate of the Tahoe Basin, let's now hear some words from Senator Dianne Feinstein.
Hello. Hello, this is Senator Dianne Feinstein, and I want to thank everyone for attending the 27th Annual Lake Tahoe Summit. I'm so sorry I can't be there in person today, but it truly makes me happy knowing that this event has continued to thrive for nearly 3 decades now. When I think about Tahoe, I think about being a little girl and getting my first glimpse of the lake, and, to be honest, never forgetting it. Its crystal blue waters, majestic pine trees, and towering snow-capped mountains. I also think about those most cherished moments attending summer camp there as a young girl, walking around the lake, riding my bike around the lake, and lots of family vacations. I'm a city girl at heart, but there's no denying that Tahoe has been a very special place for me, just as it is for so many who call it home or visit its shores. That's why I made it my mission to preserve and protect this magical place from the many threats that it continues to face, from overdevelopment, climate change, invasive species, and wildfire, so that everyone can enjoy its wonders for generations to come. The many successes we've had here at the lake wouldn't have been possible without the support of my colleagues in Congress, and of course, Team Tahoe, a group of incredible people dedicated to saving this amazing natural wonder. Team Tahoe's efforts have been instrumental to the passage of the bipartisan Lake Tahoe Restoration Act in 2000 and 2016. We are now working to pass another reauthorization to ensure Lake Tahoe continues to receive critical federal funding for the next decade. And I'm confident that we're going to be able to get this done. So I want to thank all of my House and Senate colleagues, as well as the multitude of state and local leaders who make this work possible. I also want to give special thanks to my fellow senator from California, Alex Padilla, for hosting this year's summit. I'm sincerely grateful to you, Alex, for this unwavering commitment to the lake. Thank you all for supporting this magnificent lake, the jewel of the Sierras. I wish you all the best. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Senator Feinstein. Now, before we conclude for the day, there's a few notes and thank yous I'd like to pass on to everyone who's made today possible and who worked so hard to keep Tahoe the natural jewel so many of us know and love. A big thank you to Team Tahoe and this year's sponsors for helping to organize this event, along with all of our youth volunteers for helping to set up since bright and early this morning. Let's give them a round of applause. Our thanks to California State Parks and the North Tahoe Public Utility District for hosting us. To the California State Park Rangers, the Placer County Sheriff, California Highway Patrol, and the Nevada Highway Patrol for all their outstanding help coordinating today's event and helping to ensure our safety. To Tahoe Truckee Area Regional Transportation, Tahoe Transportation District, Caltrans, and the Nevada Department of Transportation for helping folks get here today. To all the environmental organizations in today's booth fair, which will continue after the conclusion of the summit. Let's give them a round of applause. Of course, all of our first responders and fire officials who work so hard to also keep us and this place safe. Thank you very, very much. Point of personal privilege, I want to thank Team Padilla. You know who you are. I won't rattle off the names of the members of my staff who've been putting in hours and hours, not just the last couple of days, but for months, working with the Tahoe Fund and the entire Team Tahoe to organize today. Thank you very, very much. Final point of personal privilege. I don't know if he's here. He was going to try to be here. The president of Lake Tahoe Community College, Jeff DeFranco. Are you here? There he is. And not just him. His sons Brody and Rocco, who were wonderful hosts on the water for my boys on Monday. They were believers before, and they're even more believers now in the lake. Thank you, Jeff. So as we spoke about today, the protection of the Tahoe Basin is a shared task, and no event better showcases that joint effort than this one. Whether it's Chairman Smokey and the Washoe Tribe providing moral leadership to protect this land, Senators Reed and Feinstein creating and carrying on the tradition of the Tahoe Summit, or each and every one of us here today who woke up and chose to be here, cared to be here for this event. We all have a stake in the future of Tahoe. We've heard stories, we've shared childhood memories. Glad that my kids, Roman, Alex, and Diego, now have their stories to tell their friends and classmates back in Southern California. We want to make sure all kids have the same opportunities to make and share their memories. And while it's remarkable that we're in our 27th year of this bipartisan, bi-state summit, we've got to make sure more people make the connection between their favorite memories and the need for action, between the threat of climate change and the need for conservation, so that a year from now, when we convene for the 28th annual summit, we can measure success not just in funds secured or projects finished, but in how many more people have become believers and have committed themselves to keep Tahoe blue. Thank you all again for all of your help. And last announcement before we conclude, housekeeping item. If you would all please remain in your seats to allow the speakers to exit to the rear before we disperse. Enjoy the fair. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Please get home safely, and we'll see you all here next year. Thank you very much.